for this morning. Okay, so we are already done with the big picture A, so as to our big picture B ng mga discussions. So we are now in our big picture C. So this will be tackled dapat week 6 to week 7. So our unit learning outcomes for this unit, we are expecting that the end of the unit, you'll be able to understand the concept in raising the additional capital of the business and to distinguish equity financing and debt financing as part of the capital raising process. So we already have discussed this one, that whenever the business organization lacks finances, so may meron silang choice, no, to really raise capital. So this is through equity financing or debt financing. So here we will be tackling what will be the techniques, no, what will be the concept on how should we raise capital or additional capital in our business, because dili man assurance nga at all times we have lots of reserve funds, no, for us to add up our capital. So usually, as we go on with our business, there will be times na magkulang jud ato ang capital, no, for our operation. Uh, One of the examples ng mga scenarios is karon during this pandemic. So I believe, no, most or plenty of business organizations have really hard times with regards to financing their operations because of this crisis, no, nga brought about by the pandemic. So now we will be discussing no saon and what will be the concept on for us to raise capital, additional capital sa atong business. So the meta languages that will be used in this unit are the following. No? First is capital. So in finance, this means the money intended to start a business, while in economics, this means man-made resources such as machineries and equipment. So basically, when we talk about capital in finance, this would really mean nga mo ni ato ang startup capital or startup money for us to really put up our business or have our business. So budget ng capital, no? Or kung itag additional capital mo ng pandungag ng puwerta. However, when we talk about capital in economics per se, it means, no, that these are mga man-made resources, no, such as machineries and equipment. Pero for our discussion this morning, we will look at capital sa finance nga aspect. When we talk about equity financing naman, this is the process of raising capital through the sale of shares. So we are selling shares for us to add up more capital, no, in our business. When we talk about debt financing, this means when a firm raises money for working capital or capital expenditures by selling bonds, bills, or notes to individual and or institutional investors. So ito namang debt financing is that we raise money or we raise additional capital from selling bonds, no, or bills or notes. Okay, so let's first have our first discussion. This is all about raising capital in the financial markets. So there's a question here, no? What is underwriting? So in investment banking, underwriting is the process where a bank raises capital for a client. It can be a corporation, an institution, or a government from investors in the form of equity or debt securities. So usually, ang nag-underwrite are mga investment banks, no? So this is the process of which a bank raises capital for a client. So si bank ang maningkamot, no, nga mangitag capital or additional capital for their clients, no, such as mga corporation, institution, or even the government. So to have a better understanding of capital raising or underwriting process in corporate finance from an investment banker's perspective, it is imperative to know the two main functions in corporate finance. It is the merger and acquisition advisory and the underwriting. So this can be seen, no, sa table 1 later sa baba. Then M&A advisory includes assisting in negotiating, structuring, and performing evaluation of a merger or an acquisition associated with the deal. So when we talk about M&A, mao nitong sila tong mag-merge or mag-acquire jud og other nga existing nga business organization. So depende, should it be called as a merger lang or acquisition. So this service is usually provided by the advisory side of an investment bank, transaction advisor, or in-house by the corporate development group. So for example, our business natin nakita nga business establishment nga masugot nga may makipag-merge, so we can also consult the bank for the arrangement for that one. And on the underwriting side, the process includes the sale of stocks or bonds to investors in the form of initial public offerings or IPOs or follow-on offerings. So usually, for us to be assured sa ato ang ipamaligya nga stocks or bonds, mas nindot nga moagi ta sa IPO or initial public offerings. Pero when we talk about offering stocks in the public, before ana is that di ba natay ginatawag nga right of a stockholder or shareholder, no? Unsa ganitong isa ka right sa stockholder or shareholder, that is what we call wala kalimutan ko. Kadali ilang class. Preemptive right of a stockholder. So this means that before daw ibaligya ang stocks or shares sa isa ka corporation, before ibaligya sa public, it should be offered first sa existing stockholders and shareholders. That is considered as a preemptive right of a shareholder or a stockholder. So when we talk about preemptive right, kanang murag right sa stockholder or shareholders nga if ever mamaligyag additional stock or shares ang isa ka corporation, dapat i-offer sa ilaha. Like, they will be informed nga naatay for sale, nga stockholder or shareholder. Kay by that, na sila chance nga mupalit pa if ever gusto sila. Pero kung dili sila gusto mo palit ang mga existing stockholders or shareholders, that's the time that we will offer it to the public. So that is considered as a preemptive right of a stockholder. Okay, so here is the table 1. The term corporate finance typically covers two key areas, the M&A advisory and the capital raising. So when we talk about M&A advisory, this kini siya mag-assist in the negotiation and structuring of a merger or acquisition. Wait lang. What's a problem? Okay na. Sige. So, M&A advisory is more into the transactions with regards sa merger and acquisition. When we talk about capital raising capital through selling stocks or bonds to investors such as mga IPO. So, there are three main phases of underwriting advisory services. These are planning, assessing, and timing, and demand for the issue and issue structure respectively. So, first is planning. So it is important to identify the investor themes in the planning phase, understand the rationale for the investment, and get a preliminary view of investor demand or interest in this type of offering. So meaning, dili ta basta-basta mag-offer, o investment sa public if ever wala ta nagplano. So we should also identify unsa ang gusto sa public, kung tahay magbaligya ba ta ani naabay mo palit mga investors if ever mag-offer tag stocks, additional stocks mo go ba ang mga investors. So we should also plan, kay it is really significant nga in everything, in every action sa business organizations, planning jud ang pinaka-key. Then timing and demand, we also need to see to it the timing kung okay ba so as sa demand. So the timing and demand of an offering are crucial to a successful capital raising. So here are some factors that influence the assessment of the timing and demand of an offering. First is that we should always consider the current market condition. So pasabot na i-consider nato okay ba ang market, For now, we should think, like for example during this pandemic, so we should think mga investments nga dapat patok, like for example lain pod kung tahay you are in the tourism industry, like for example ay dili sa kwanta transport, like for example sa airplane, no, air transport nga industry. So I think if mamaligya kag stocks or shares, gamay ra gyud mo palit karon as of the moment, because they believe nga dili kaayo operational ang mga airplane karon, no. So that's the thing, no, nga dapat mga one of the things nga pwede i-consider nato if okay ba ang market condition. And for example, kana siya nga business organization kanang patok iyahang business as of the moment during this pandemic, like for example mga medical supplies and all, so better nga mag-invest jud ana, no, at some point kung tayo mag-offer silang shares or stocks, pwede nga mo palit ta, no, pwede ta magkuha og shares or stocks. Thus it is really important for us to consider the current market condition. Second is the current investor appetite. We also need to study, no, unsa ang kanang unsa ka risk taker ang mga investors as of the moment, no. So tan-awon nato unsa ang mga investors, are they aggressive or they are conservative, are they risk taker or dili kaayo. So dapat i-consider nato gihapon ang current investor appetite. And also, the investor experience, no? What are the investors' experiences? Are investors experienced in this field or market, no? So, i-consider po nato, it's just like selling a product, no? Dapat kabalo ta sa atong target market. So, same lang po sa offering a share or stock, no? We should also consider unsa ang mga experiences sa mga investors. Kay para, if there will be questions, we can counteract mga questions and we can answer those questions nga ilang i-throw. Then precedence and benchmark offerings. So has a similar company based on size, industry, and geographical location issued an IPO in the past? What are some other companies that you can benchmark for an IPO? So of course, no, in having an idea of selling a stock or a bond, no, dapat better man gyud nga tan-awon nato, no, if there are already corporations nga naka-undergo ana, how does it went, no, okay ba or dili. Kay by that, through experience, through their experience, maka-learn ta if there are problems during the past nga nagbaligyan na, then wala na successful, then we should have to make it as a kuan case analysis, no, we case reference nga ngano wala man to nag-succeed. Thus kanang we will pinpoint mga problems with regards sa ilahang offering sa market nga nang wala nagpatok. Then if we will already have identified those problems, pwede ta mangita og solusyon, no, kay para kung kita na nga time ang mamaligya, then okay na, smooth. If there will be problems, siguro manageable lang ang mga problems. And lastly is current news flow, no? What is the current news flow on the company? Is it a positive or a negative flow? So tan-awon po nato, no, unsa ang image sa ato ang corporation or atong company. Is it good or bad? If it is not, then we will find ways in releasing news nga makapabalik, no, makaparetract sa ato ang a good image and reputation. The third one is issue structure. So deciding the structure of an offering is the final phase of underwriting advisory services. So here are some factors that influence the issue structure. So first question is that, is it going to be a domestic or an international issue? So atong tan-awon unsa man ang structure sa atong pag-issue. Should we just sell the issued shares sa domestic, locally, nationally, or should we go into the international setting? So depende sa ato ano. So dapat planado tanan. So tan-aw nato kung ato ang offering ba sa shares, atong ibalik lang ba sa domestic or pwede international, no? Then are the investor demands located domestically or overseas? So tan-awon po nato kinsa may naga-demand ana nga shares, no? Mostly ba sa naga-demand na sa international setting or nasa laing nasod, or ang mostly naga-demand lang ana is domestic? If sa domestic, then we will issue it sa domestic lang po, no? What investors from other countries be interested would investors from other countries be interested in this offering? So tan-awon na nato siya nga mga questions, no? Next is it the focus on institutional or retail investors? No? So tanaw na to if interest ba na siya sa institutional or retail investors lang? And how will the sale occur? No? So saan na to pagbaligya sa shares? No? Should we go into the market dyan or through IPO or kanang secret lang? No? So 1.1.6, this was here we will discuss types of underwriting commitment. So there are three main types of commitments made by the investment bank. No? The firm commitment, best efforts, and all or none. So here, basically, kung kita ang business organization class or kita ang corporation, it is better for us to top up investment banks na sila ang mag-process, sila ang mag-handle in selling the shares or stocks. Kaya kung kita, we are not that um, knowledgeable on how really to deal with investment or offering shares or stocks. Better na mag-top up tag mga financial institutions like like investment bank, no. So here there are three main types daw of commitments made by the investment bank to the corporation nga naga-offer ana nga shares or stocks. First is the firm commitment. So this means that the firm or the underwriter agrees to buy the entire issue at a certain price. If the underwriter fails to sell the entire issue, the underwriter must take full responsibility, financial responsibility for any unsold shares. So when we talk about firm commitment, meaning any class is that si investment bank nag-commit, no, nga iyahang paliton tanan shares or stocks. Then, of course, ang responsibility karon is naa na sa investment bank on how should the investment bank sell all the shares or stocks. So kung tahay na maligya na siya, no? So, there are times nga patungan dyan nila, no? Kay para naa sila pa income. So here comes what if wala na halin tanan shares or stocks nga gi-issue. So that's the problem now. That's the financial responsibility now of the investment banks. So sila mo bayad ato, no? So that's the consequence of the first nga type sa commitment, no, which is the first firm commitment. When we talk about best efforts, so the best efforts basis is the most common form of commitment out of the three listed. So mo yung pinaka-common, no. For this, no, the underwriter commits in good faith to sell as much of the issue at the agreed price as possible. There is no financial or legal responsibility imposed on the underwriter for any unsold shares or deal performance. So meaning, if you are the investment bank here, at some point, save sa imong part because ang best efforts lang man, meaning, I will really commit nga ibaligya ko ning shares or stocks. But, kung naay dili mahalin, no, dili niya responsibility, dili financially responsible si investment bank nga bayaran tong wala nang halin, no. So kaya na lang niya kung unsay makayag halin, then mauna siya, no. So that's somehow a 50 win-win situation for the investment bank so as a company or sa corporation nga nag-issue og share. And the last one, no, nga type is all or none. So pasabot ani is that all or none, tanan or wala. Meaning kung dili mahalin sa investment bank, no, ang tanan nga share so useless, so depende mamili ka, no. Ipahalin nimo tanan or wala, no. So finally, in an all or none commitment, unless the entire issue is sold at the offering price, the deal is voided and the underwriter will not receive any compensation. Pasabot kung dili niya mahurot og halin tanan, the deal is void, no, voided, meaning wala siya makuha nga compensation in selling those, no. So kung mahalin niya tanan, then that's good, the compensation will be there, no. The compensation will be due in the part of the company or the corporation issuing the share. So among the three, of course, ang pinaka-safe is ang best efforts, no. Pasabot wala kay financial responsibility nga kinahanglan jud nimo ibaligya ang shares or stocks. So the underwriter must decide the issue structure based on the focus on either institutional or retail investors and a domestic versus an international issue. So finally, in an all or none commitment, the underwriter will not be compensated at all unless the entire issue is sold at the offering price. So this is somehow challenging, no? The third one. So as a first nga type, no, nga commitment, it's all about how risk taker ang investor is, no, investment bank, I mean, kung sa sila ka risk taker. Pero kung risk taker sila, then that's good, no, because usually maningkamot man na sila og halin jud sa shares or stocks, kay the more nga dagag mahalin or mahurot tanan, then dako-dako po jud ang compensation. So second one, the best effort, this is somehow a conservative type, no, because kung unsa ray mahalin, then be it. So nagdepende ra pod sa mahalin ang imuhang compensation, no. So this is somehow in consonance, no, sa concept sa the higher the risk, the higher the return. 1.2, the capital raising process. This is an overview, no, on how should be capital raising kanang process run, no. So first is book building process. So during the second phase of underwriting advisory services, investment bankers must estimate the expected investor demand. So by this, no, if we will be identifying or we will estimate the demand of the investors, so meaning makabalo ta kung pila atong i-price ana, no. So this includes an evaluation of current market conditions. So this is how we will examine, no, kumusta ba ang current market conditions, investor appetite and experience, news flows, and benchmarking mark offerings. So based on all of these conditions, investment bankers or underwriters will draft a prospectus with a price range that they believe is reflective of expected investor demand. So now, here sa book building process, ginatanaw na itong murag current nga market conditions, news flows, benchmarking offerings, kung pila tong presyo nila sa una, no, same sa ato ang line of business, mo nilang gipresyo, pwede na to mo og basis. And we also consider the demand, no. 'Di ba in economics, the higher the demand, mas mataas ang price, no. Particularly if wala na hilabtan si supply, no. So mao jud na ipasabot, no. Pag mataas ang demand, expected jud na siya nga patas-an sa mga sellers ang price, no. Because si supply at some point di man ang makaapa sa kapaspas sa demand. So same as ini, no. If you offer share, tan-aw na to kung offer ko ani nga share, pila kayay mag-demand, no, nga mopalit ani. Thus, i-consider nato, no, kung tahay daghan og may demand og palit ani, therefore patasan na tong price gamay, no. Pero kung tahay, pag-assess nato, gamay ra mag-demand ana. So, of course, we don't have a choice but to lessen up the price. Kay kung tahay, magpataas tag price, kinsa may palit ana, di ba? Wala. So, mabulok rin ng shares or stocks nga walay mo palit. So, daghan kay i-consider, no? When we will really consider the pricing. No? So as an investment bankers receive orders at a certain prices from institutional investors, they create a list of the orders called the book of demand. No? So pwede ta nga mag-mergod sa kuan class, mag-canvas lang sa, no? So among from the canvas, tanaw na to kung kinsa ang mas kuan, no? Kung kinsa pwede mo palit or something, kinsa pwede mo offer or something, ano good. So magbuhat tag book of demand. So from this list, investment bankers will justify and set a clearing price to ensure the entire offering is sold. So finally, the allocation of stocks or bonds will occur based on the subscription of the offering. So in this case of an oversubscribed book, some investors may not receive the full requested order. So kung tahay, daghan kay nag-demand, no, so possible na uban nga dili mahatagan, no. So this is now the capital raising process. First is that we will have the prospectus with price range, no. So here tan-awon nato, pwede ta mag-estimate, no, kung pila ang ato ang price range ani nga share or stock. After that, we will now have the institutional investor commitment at firm price. So tan-awon nato unsa ang commitment nga himuon sa sa investment bank, let us say, no. Then we'll now have the book of demand, no, built. So tanawon to nato ang list of possible nga pwede mo palit or mo subscribe ana nga share or stocks. Then we'll now set the price, no, to ensure clearing. So among from the demand, no, mag-set na tag price na tama-tama lang para dili ma-undervalue, di pod ma-overvalue ang kana nga share or stocks. And the last one is the allocation. So tan-awon nato asa nato i-hatag ang mga shares or stocks. Now let's talk about the roadshow for the capital raising process. So mura ra pud ni sa og promotion, no? Promotional techniques for us to really raise the capital nga dali lang, no? Pagpuntahe pagbaligya nato ana nga shares or stocks, dali lang ang pagkahalin. So that's one way, no, for us to really papaspason ang capital raising process is for us to conduct roadshow. So the roadshow is often included as part of the capital raising process. This is when the management of the company going public goes on the road with investment bankers to meet institutional investors who are hopefully going to be investing in their company. So it's just like a set of meetings, no, with institutional investors. With us are mga investment bankers, no, to for us to really promote, no, kining stocks or shares, no. I believe we only have 1 minute left, no, so when this will be shut down